Emotional.
You know what, Ursula?
You're doing it, fantastic.
Yes.
Well, what we want to tell you is that thanks to Andy, the Media Relations Director at the Holocaust Museum, we can tell her what we're about to look at.
Well, we're going to look at some of the items you've donated to the museum. So,
Really?
Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
Thank you. Our conservation people agreed to pull them out for us and make these available. So.
Wow, I still have that Mad Stuff blanket. But the reason I didn't give it to you is because I cut the number out.
Okay.
And I might have given the number to you. I don't remember what I gave, you know.
Well, we can go over here and take a look.
Oh, wow, what a surprise.
So if you don't mind, since we'll be handling artifacts, I
Right.
can ask you to wash your hands. If that's
Yeah,
okay.
and I don't have to touch it. I can just let you touch
No,
it.
you go ahead and wash your hands, Ursula.
Yeah? Okay, I wash my hands. Where do I wash my hands? Wow. Oh, so now I can tell everybody who told me, don't give things to the Holocaust.
It's really hot here.
Okay, don't give things to the Holocaust Museum. they are going to just put it in storage. They won't know where it is or anything. I didn't even remember I gave you this. You know, these are such memories. This is my stepfather, Sigmund, and the children were in my class at the Jewish school in Düsseldorf. And he was given a few days to leave Germany. And he took the Orient Express to Vladivostok, and from Vladivostok he went to China, and everyone in his family was killed. And I came to Boston with my mom, and she didn't speak English. I spoke English the way I do now with a lousy accent. And there were women in Massachusetts, in Boston, who were wonderful teachers and was teaching English to new immigrants. So I took Mommy, and she learned English, and then they had a social afterwards, and at that social was a man, tall man, and I went up to him and I said, can I ask you, you look so much like Herbert Brunel, who was in my school, and he broke down, his whole family was killed. And that was the beginning of a wonderful friendship. So my mother and Sigmund were married, and he became the only grandfather my children knew, because both my husband's parents and all my relatives were killed. So, and I remember his children. They were in my school. And this is a card that we were told to send back to Germany from Terezin. We were actually forced to do so, and we had to only write nice things, like, Dear Uncle Eric. And Uncle Eric was married to a Catholic woman, and Uncle Eric was at the Jewish community and was able to change the religion of his son as Christian instead of Jewish. And his wife was a very devout Catholic, and one of the priests in Düsseldorf also changed the religion of his child. And that child is a man. I have no contact with him in Australia now. So this was sent to Uncle Erich. Thank you for what you sent me. He never sent anything. That means please send me something. It arrived very promptly. We got lots of packages from other people which were sent with fictitious names, because if you send something to Terezin and you were still in Germany or you were non-Jewish, that didn't bode too well for you. And so he said he's thanking for what he sent, and I'm very thrilled to hear you are well and alive. Well, he never was in the camps, as it turned out. And we are fine. We had to write that. I read a lot. This is my brother. and I play football. And all the former acquaintances in Germany, in Düsseldorf, have in the meantime sent packages to me which I received. And everything arrived punctually. You know, this was all dictated. And the most heartfelt greetings, your nephew Walter. That was my brother who was gassed in Auschwitz. Yeah. And this is when I was in the displaced person camp. And this was when we had to adopt the middle name Israel and Sarah. And my father had to fill this out. This is his handwriting. My maiden name was Lenneberg, and he had to fill out Otto Israel Lenneberg, Ursula Sarah Lenneberg, Walter Israel Lenneberg. And on top of that, we had to wear the Jewish star. And this was a form we had to fill out to tell the Nazis that we were moving to another town. I mean, it was just insane. And they were forcing us. Wow. Well, this is Deggendorf. This is a displaced person camp where I found so very few, but relatively many friends who have survived and arrived in Deggendorf, and they were wonderful to me, and it was like having a family. The Blaus were terrific. My mother's sister tried to send packages with, you know, invented names and posted in different places, and had a lot of vitamins. And Herbert Blau contracted tuberculosis. And every vitamin that I received, and it was only for a short time we received the packages, went to Herbert Blau. And the Blaus never forgot it. And he was a big director of the Deggendorf displaced person camp, and we were treated like royalty. And I taught English in Deggendorf to surviving Jewish children. So all these memories. Well, it's so great to see. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very important.
Yeah, these are all birth certificates of Brunels and the Lennebergs. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. This was my stepfather. And he survived in Shanghai, China. And the amazing thing is the Japanese were so cruel to the Chinese. But in Shanghai, they never really did any harm to the Jews. And then he came to Boston because he had a brother in Boston. And he was in the same synagogue to learn English where I took my mother. And they had this coffee and tea bit afterwards. And you had to walk through a hall, and there comes this man, he was a very tall man. And I went up to him and I said, "You look so much like Herbert Brunel, who was in my class," and he broke down. He lost everybody. And then Hans and I get married, and we are in New Hampshire for 3 days, and we come back, and Sigmund and Mommy are married. He was a wonderful grandfather. The only grandfather my children knew, because my father's parents were killed, my husband's parents were killed. Yeah, oh God. Yeah. You see, that's my writing. I did all this and sent it to the Holocaust Museum. Wow. Here, look at what I told you. These were the coupons we had to show to get food. And the German butcher and baker could refuse to give us anything because, see what it says on the coupon? Jude, Jew, which entitled them not to give us food, not to give it to us. So all the things I've been talking about, I didn't even realize I had any documentation for it. I just hate to even touch it. And this is the Jewish, the private Jüdische Schule, which was a very good school. I wasn't always the greatest student, but anyway. And this man was also killed, and so was his wife, the Schnooks. So it's just horrible. And this was my brother's. You see, and we weren't such good Hebrew students. English, yes, very good. Hebrew, no. My father's, see, we had to sign it, Otto Israel Lenneberg.
Okay.
And Schnook had to sign it, Kurt Schnook. I can't believe that. When I tell my sons this, I can't believe this. I didn't even remember I gave this to you. Yeah. And for some reason, all of a sudden, is this the last one? They give me very good grades. I probably didn't deserve them. And this is in Deggendorf, in the displaced person camp. And this was so funny. I knew these people from Terezin. And my father had been very supportive of the Blaus because Herbert Blau got tuberculosis. So and he was a real bureaucrat, Mr. Tuch. And we had no birth certificate, with no papers. So Tuch was giving us all kinds of papers. Where we were born, etc. So, and he was very proud of himself. And then he had a secretary, and he was behaving like the president of a big company, and on this old typewriter. See, this is a tragedy. This letter. This is my in-laws, my husband's parents, who I never met. He was a physician. He saved German soldiers in World War I, and he got the Iron Cross First Class. And for that, they sent him to one of the extermination camps. And he wrote a letter to the parents of a former mate and begged for a needle, for socks, for underwear. And it was heartbreaking. How did I get this? My husband was an interpreter in Germany in 1945. And he gets called to the chief officer and said, there's somebody who wants to talk to you. And she was a relative of the former mate. And she gave him this letter, which was sent to them. And it is, you can't read this letter without crying. Can't you send us a needle? Can't you send us warm underwear? And it is just terrible. And he looked around, my husband, and she was gone. It was just awful. It's the only thing. They took everything from my husband's father was a good violinist. He had a number of violins. He had a gypsy violin. Everything was taken away. And then that would not have mattered to me, but then they killed them. So I'm glad I gave it all to you. Is there anything about my diary in here? Is that in a different place?
Talking about that.
I don't think this has my diary. Oh, here's my diary. Can't believe it.
Oh,
Can't believe it.
are you kidding me?
There's my diary in there. So here comes my diary. Okay. Bushi and I traveled from Poland to Holland by bicycle. Bicycles which the Russian officer gave to us after he liberated that camp. We were in Merzdorf, and I started to immediately write down what had happened. And we were on the road for weeks and weeks and weeks, and only wonderful weather. And one day, as we were picnicking, I see a dead soldier in the bushes. It was a German SS officer, or SS man, who knows, I don't remember that. And I went through his pockets, and I found a map. And the map didn't just have main roads, it had side roads. It was a map of all of Germany. Had swastikas all over. That map got us to the Dutch border. And it allowed us to pick side roads because they were taking all people off the road and put them into displaced person camp. And Bushi and I vowed we did not want to see another camp. So, and then when I got to Lipborg, to my aunt, she gave me this diary. And I copied everything I had written down, which was fresh in my mind, into the diary. And this is a diary. And I took some of the pictures out because they are in my book. And this is how I looked when I came out of the camps, because I hadn't eaten for so long. Both Bushi and I blew up. We couldn't digest the food. I also didn't have a period all the time I was in the camps. So it took a while for us to get back to normal life, and this is my brother. And this is my writing. And my book is based on this. And this is a poem that Bushi wrote on the 24th of April 1945. And our Belgian and French friends who were forced laborers, who were prisoners of war, kept saying the Russians are very close, but they never came, we thought. So Bushi found a knife, an army knife, a Swiss army knife that was half broken, in the garbage at the railroad station where we worked. And she wrote a poem. And the poem is translated in my book, but not here. But it essentially says, this is the German that Bushi wrote, I'll give this knife to you because I know that it is very important to give what is so valuable, because I've always felt that he who gives what he has deserves to live. Wow, wow. Well, I'm glad I gave it to you. I'm really proud of you. Thank you for preserving it. Thank you for keeping it. And now I feel it's really in good hands. She has me on television and all this, I've done so much speaking, and there comes a time that you feel it's getting too much, and I don't have a chance to just stop doing it.
Well, we're glad that you keep going, and I know the students are too, because we have survivors speak here at the museum. And there's just no replacing it. I mean, the museum is a great building, a great exhibition. People go through it, and everyone who goes through it, when they come to hear a survivor speak, what was the best thing? Well, hearing the survivor speak. You know, that's.
Well, we have that trouble at Warren Valley College, where I'm on the board, and Pepe Margolis, who is in charge. The kids want to see a survivor, and we are not going to be around forever. I'm old, you know, and so we do our best. But
Ursula, I want to see your picture when you came out of the camp.
yes,
And then your other pictures.
yes, go, yeah. I was so swollen,
I can imagine.
and I had so much trouble with my teeth, and the German dentists were so lousy. I don't know, it was terrible.
I'm surprised they had one.
Yeah, and you know, it was even worse when we got to Boston. It's typically immigrants. You have to go to a German dentist, you know, an immigrant.
Oh, because
And this guy in Boston, everything that he did to my teeth had to be taken out in New Jersey, you know. I was lucky because I was working in X-ray, and the radiologist said, well, go to such and such, a dentist.
Jersey.
And he was wonderful. And I didn't have money, and this guy was not Jewish, he was Catholic, and he said, you don't have to pay me, you pay me every week a little bit, you know. It was wonderful, yeah. I've only had tremendous experiences, you know. And then, of course, when I go to Boston, and I get the telephone call that Mrs. Schreiber in New York, who reads the New York Times, which posted the names of survivors, she saw the name Lenneberg, which was her maiden name. She called her daughter in Boston and said, all the Lennebergs are related, you better get in touch with these people. And they were quite wealthy people. And then they didn't know what to do with this girl who really didn't have much of an education. And they were all stewing about it. And that's how I got into New England Medical Center to study X-ray technology.
That's good.
Yeah. I was really lucky. I found so many wonderful people. Yeah. And I found my husband, right, who wasn't in the camps. So I didn't live the Holocaust from morning to night after a while. And he wouldn't even allow me to look at any writings about the Holocaust.
So, did you meet your husband here, or he?
In Boston.
Okay.
It's that poem on toilet paper. Yeah. So now, you know, anybody who doubts what I keep telling people.
Go ahead, you can close it.
Yeah. Well. Can you see it? Is it better like this?
I got it.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Andy, tell us your name.
My name is Andy Hollinger.
And Andy, what is your job here at the Holocaust Museum?
I'm the director of media relations.
And what room are we standing in now?
This is our conservation lab. This is where we bring collections and items that have been donated to the museum by survivors, their families, or others. Items here are preserved and conserved so they can be either stored or put on display or used in.
Is this room open to the general public?
No, this is not an area that the general public comes to.
Well, I want to thank you very much for allowing us
Yes.
to come in here with Ursula and see her artifacts. Now, approximately how many people have donated their artifacts to the Holocaust Museum?
I don't know how many individuals have donated to the museum, but we've had donors from around the country and around the world, and certainly at a time when Holocaust survivors are aging, their families are wondering what to do with these items, we would encourage them, if they have items in their possessions, to contact the museum to find out if it's something they'd be interested in donating. We will preserve them. We will put them, some of them are on our website, some of them go into exhibitions, but they'll always be preserved and open for scholarship and research. So we really encourage survivors and their families to be in touch with the museum if they have things they can donate.
What's your name?
My name is Charles Bills. I'm a registrar here at the Holocaust Museum.
I think that people would like to know how you go about preserving the artifacts that people donate here, and how you catalog them and make sure that they're all properly organized.
Well, how we keep track of them and organize them. It's a bit like a library. We assign each artifact a number, and we track its location wherever it is, be it on exhibit or in storage or something of that nature. It's it's basically it's like organizing a large library or any other large collection of items. Sometimes we assign, say for a large archival collection, we might give it one number, and we note the contents of the collection, what it deals with, and so forth. Sometimes an individual artifact, like your diary, might have an individual number. In terms of preservation, how we conserve the artifacts, you'd have to ask a conservator. They're the ones with the training to do that sort of
But I
thing.
noticed the boxes that you keep them in, they're all individually marked, and when Ursula Paul donated her artifacts, they've been segregated and kept in that box and preserved until today.
Exactly. We put everything inside of an acid-free box, the box we just showed you. We separate the material by material type, depending on what it is. We do everything we can once the collection comes in, so that it's going to stay together.
Well, before we came down today for this documentary, Ursula was not told that her artifacts were going to be displayed. We want to thank you all for that.
You're very welcome. We're
So
happy to do it.
surprised. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Thank you very, very, very much. Nancy is the one who started the whole business. And thank you, Nancy. And now I know they have my diary.